Lori, I can't be able to get, I can't be able to type my information on there.
Okay, did you go to the chat on the right hand? You have to open up chat, which is a speech bubble in your controls.
Okay.
Scroll around at the top or at the bottom. Look
Okay.
for a speech bubble. Press on that. That'll open up your chat, and then type to everyone.
Okay. Okay, I got it.
You're welcome. I'm going to mute you. Okay, great. So it's 1 o'clock. This is Lori Howard. Welcome to Completing the IELCE Plan. I've learned a few new Zoom tools this week. Maybe you've been participating in some Zoom training as well. So I'm going to try to do things a little bit differently or a little bit better this time. We'll see if they work. Again, bear with me. First of all, would you please type your full name and agency into the chat box, and anyone who might be with you. That would help me manage your enrollment. Also, if you want to access the slides, you can go to the CASAS website now or later and access them. I'm also going to be putting a recording of this training on the CASAS website as well. Let me just make sure that I am recording. I don't see the little button, but I'm going to look. Oh yeah, looks like I am. Okay, wonderful. So I've heard that you using your video, I've asked you to all come in on video, but I've heard that using it takes up a lot of bandwidth. So if we start having problems, I might ask you to get out of your video. I'm going to be on video today just cause. But I've muted you all. You can unmute yourself in your picture up on the right hand side of your picture. Or your square where your name is in it. It shows you mute or unmute, so feel free to do that if you want to talk. I may or may not be able to monitor the chat. I'm trying to, and now I'm just seeing your names, and thank you so much for putting your names in the box. So just want to also mention to you that if you were attended one of the EL Civics conferences this winter in February and March, and you came to my session at this time, this will be exactly the same for you. So you don't need to attend, although you're welcome to. And again, the slides and the recording, the slides are now available to you if you want to download them and write on them now, or the recording will also be available to you on the EL Civics website. So let's get started. Let me see here how I'm going to do this. See if this works. So I'm running this a little differently, as I mentioned. I'm going to show the slides without full screen. So let's see how this is going to work. Okay, good. Whoops. Am I in slideshow? There we go. Good. So, and again, I'm not using animation, so everything's out here at once. I'm hoping, yeah, I'm sharing my screen. Let me know if you don't see the PowerPoint that I've set out for you. I've got it up as big as I can in this mode. So just want to know how many of you are, well, let's see. How many of you are EL Civics teachers? If you go to, I'm going to have you, if you go to Manage Participants, oh my gosh. And I think if you do that, you can find a place to raise your hand. There you go. Thank you so much. You did it. Okay. And how many of you, okay, take your hands down, please. And how many of you are CTE teachers? Oh, wow, great. Okay, thank you, raising your hand. Good, and coordinators of EL Civics programs, raise your hands. Thank you. Administrators of EL Civics programs. Okay, great. Great, thank you so much. And any other staff members we have to take your hands down, those of you who did, and then any other staff members, data, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, wonderful, thank you so much. Okay, wonderful. So, and remember that all staff members are crucial to the success of this program. We're gonna be talking about things perhaps a little bit differently today. I know most of you or all of you have already done your plan, but we're going to be talking about ways to improve what you've done in the past. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Let me go to the next slide. Okay, our goals and objectives for today. I'm going to well, let's see what I can do here. I'm just going to highlight, identify the enhancements to the 2020 IELCE plan. So we have made some major enhancements. I'm going to show you those. I'm going to identify the resources for completing the plan. And then hopefully by the end of the session, you will be able to successfully submit the plan and also meet the deadline, which is currently April 30th, 2020. I hope all of you got the FAQ that came out from the department. I sent it out to everybody on the EL Civics Network. If you're not on my EL Civics Network, please go to lbhoward@casas.org and send me an email, ask me to be on my EL Civics Network email list, and I'll try to keep you updated. The deadline is still April 30th, 2020. So I just want to talk a little bit about last year. 119 agencies submitted their IELCE plan, and 113 of them received an adequate rating on their plan. Okay, so we just had 6 agencies that ran into trouble, but the rest of them were rated adequate. However, that doesn't mean your plan was as good as it might be. So that's what I want to talk to you today about, how to make it even better than it was last year. And remember that we are always in the aim of continuous improvement. So we want to get better from what you did last year to the coming year. Okay. So please, if you haven't already, open up your chat button, which is a speech bubble on your control panel. And then if you would chat to everyone the answer to this question: what was the greatest challenge in completing the IELCE plan last year in 2018 and 19? Would you chat to everyone your greatest challenge in completing the IELCE plan for last year? I'm going to give you a minute to type in the chat your greatest challenge. I don't see anybody doing it yet. Oh, there we go. Okay, good. Thank you so much. Keep going. I'm going to give you a minute. Okay, 10 more seconds. Okay, thank you so much. So I'm going to leave it there, although if you feel you still have to continue, go ahead and continue while I'm talking. That helps me, but to know, and I'm going to take a look at the chat. So I'm so happy to have that. But I also want to do it to just, as they say, get your yayas out. I know that last year may have been difficult for you, but this year is going to be better. And we're not going to talk about last year now. We're going to talk about how this year is going to be good. And if you have any questions, I'll try to answer them today, but also feel free to email me at lbhoward@casas.org, or if you put any questions in the chat, I'll be looking at the chat and I will try to respond to you after the training, perhaps starting tomorrow. Okay, let's move on. Whoops, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to give you the revisions to the IELCE plan for 2020. This slide tells you the general information, sort of all in a summary, okay? So first of all, the first item, the plan page count was reduced from 8 to 4 pages. So hopefully it'll look a lot shorter on your screen. And again, hopefully the shortness will ease the implementation and you're being able to fill it out. So that's the first thing. We had 8 major revisions in part 1 and part 2 from last year. And I'm going to describe each one of those revisions in the slides today. I don't know why I put this out here separately, but just to tell you, in part 1, section 1, the assurances are still there, but the civic objectives and credentials were removed from this section. So, and I'll be talking about that. Okay, that's sort of the main thing that happened that made it shorter. One thing to tell you in terms of filling out the plan appropriately, it's really best if you use Google Chrome. Sometimes you can't see everything you need to if you use another browser. So I highly suggest you use Google Chrome. Our tech person is trying to make the view better for other browsers, but it would be really helpful if you used Chrome, and then you wouldn't have to worry about that. Just to tell you also, again, we're trying to ameliorate this, but sometimes you might not see everything. For example, when I went into the test version, I couldn't see all the comment sections that were added. I'm going to show you those. So if you can't see everything you think you should, or that you've seen here in this website, try to adjust your settings, because that may help you see the plan a little better. Again, we're trying to ameliorate it, so it'll just come up and you'll see everything. But if that doesn't happen, you know, call tech support or try to adjust your settings. I think some of you didn't realize the support that was available to you last year. In each of the headings, or in some of the headings, you'll find a, oh, this blue question mark got moved. This blue little question mark over here on the right. If there's a question mark with in a blue square, check on it, because that's going to have your instructions. So we didn't want to have all the instructions in the, you know, if we put all the instructions outside, it would make it longer. So we put some of them inside. Also, I'm going to show you there are help documents and other things you might not have found last year. So I'm going to show you where they are this year, and I'll actually take you to the CASAS website. And there's a summary of plan items on the civic participation page and the IELCE plan page. So in 2 places, you'll find a summary of the plan. It's also, yeah, it's on the CASAS website, so you can download that if you haven't already. Any questions so far about what we're going to do today and something else you need? And Burr asked, did you share the slide deck already? And Burr, it's on the CASAS website. Okay, good. Thank you. And yeah, and I can send it to the, I can send the deck also to the Yale Civics Network after the training later today also, if you want me to. Okay, let's go over revision number 1. Selection of overarching 243 civic objectives was removed from section 1. So last year, you had to select all the civic objectives that you were going to use in your various plans. And so this year we took that section out. We realized that we'd rather know which civic objectives you're doing in each specific plan. So now the civic objectives have moved to the specific plans, and I'll show you that in a minute. And currently the civic objective menu is in the workforce preparation activities. We're hoping it's also going to show up in the ESL literacy. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. If it doesn't, I'm going to show you a workaround. Okay, revision number 2, the credentials drop down. So there was a credentials drop down for all programs at the beginning also, and this is another way we got rid of the large number of pages, which was we moved that again to the specific pathway, because it didn't really help us to know which credentials you were using in general. We wanted to know which credentials you were using for which program. So now we've moved that into the program itself. Each pathway has a section for credentials. Okay. So I just wanted to show you how it looks. This is a bigger version on slide 8, just a bigger version of what was in the previous slide. So at the beginning of the IET components, and you'll see for 1920 here, you use this, I don't know if you can see my arrow, you use this plus button to start a new program. And then as before, you'll type in all the things. I happen to type this in: health and science, medical technology is the industry sector, career pathway, pharmacy technology, training program, pharmacy tech. It's a short-term vocational credit, specific certification. I put that in there, and then I put the teaching model. So for each plan, you're going to need to do that as you did before. Okay, revision 3, the NRS data was removed. So what we realized was we had put in the data there that was before March 31st, and some of you got confused because it wasn't your current data. So we realized that you can run your current data, so you know what it is, and if you want to mention your data in your report at all, you can run it yourself. When program specialists and CD consultants review your plans, we can run your data that is more current at the time, so more after March 31st. So we'll be seeing your third quarter data when we review your plan. So we decided to remove it from this. So Jody, can you hold up your question? Because I'm going to talk about that, okay? Jody asks, if you're continuing the same model, can you write continuing? And I'll show you how to do that if you don't mind. Okay, revision number 4. So the IET components show at the same level. Some of us didn't realize this problem because we just didn't realize it. So, but we found out that before, last year, the ESL literacy course that section allowed only one ESL literacy course to be connected to each workforce preparation program and workforce training. We didn't realize that there was a hierarchy. So we made them all level. So you can put as many ESL courses that support the workforce training, that support the training program. Okay, you can put as many as you need to for each pathway. So that problem has been solved. The other thing we did was to switch the order. So if you'll notice in my arrow, we put workforce training course on the left-hand side. And that is because that relates directly to the pathway. Some people got confused last year. They didn't realize, I guess, that they needed a pathway. So we put the training on the left to say, okay, this is what's happening. You're doing a training course, and how are you supporting it with workforce preparation and ESL? So that's why it's to the left. It's the more important one because we're working towards a pathway. And again, there might be more than one training course in this pathway that you're describing here in each of the programs, okay? So it says agencies can add any number of each component independently. And there's a new order, which I just talked about. And then you include any workforce training programs that are part of the pathway. So I have a question. Amy likes this. Thank you, Amy. Marin says, if we have a medical pathway with multiple classes, surgical assistant, CNA, dental assistant, can that be one single pathway? So I wouldn't suggest you do that, Marin. I think it's better if you have multiple medical pathways. So you start out with a medical pathway, surgical assistant, and you talk all about that and everything you're doing. And then you do another program, medical pathway, CNA, and talk all about that. And then medical pathway and dental assistant. And the reason is because each one of those should have a different single set of learning objectives. They're going to have different contacts. So it's just going to keep it cleaner if you put them all separately. So the pathway is the training program, not necessarily the overall umbrella of medical. I hope you understood that. Okay, so that's George's question. What is the difference between a course and a pathway? Let's go back a couple of slides. Okay, so this is the slide. So our industry sector, I don't know if I can highlight this or not. The industry sector up here at the top, I think maybe you can see my cursor, health, science, and medical technology. So that would be the industry sector for all the things that Marin mentioned, okay? And then the pathway here is the specific one, pharmacy tech, surgical assistant, CNA, etc. So that's what we want to see there. And then the training program. So I guess it's possible that the pathway here and the training program could be the same, but we would like you to do them separately, as I mentioned, because it just helps clarify and have you have the single set of learning objectives, et cetera, for each one. If you have, and also the credential might be different. And so we only have one place for credential type here. So that's why it's better if you split them up, even though you have the umbrella of medical. I hope that makes sense. If you have any more questions, again, feel free to email me. And also talk to your program specialist. Again, we're here to help you. We'd like you to ask us questions. We want you to do this in a way that helps you and helps us evaluate your program and helps you have a better program. Again, continuous improvement. We're trying all to learn how to do this better. So hopefully this will help. Okay, I'm going to go ahead 2 slides above. I think yes. Okay, we did revision 4. So I just wanted to talk a little bit before we go any further. Maybe this relates to the pathways also. So this is the IET program, basically from the federal government, saying that IET, integrated education and training, involves literacy activities, workforce preparation, and workforce training. All of that includes IET. I know there was a question earlier, and sometimes this is a little bit of a disconnect, is some of you are calling IET, your CTE classes IET. And truthfully, the whole thing is IET. So to make it cleaner in our system, at least for me, it would be better if you call your workforce training, or CTE, and not use the IET moniker, because that is really the whole thing altogether. And so we're having a little disconnect with a lot of people about the difference between what is IET, what is IELCE. IELCE is part of IET. Okay, it is the English part of integrated education and training, or the English and workforce preparation and training part that go along with it. So again, let's not get too bogged down in terms, but that's how I see it. So this is what came from the federal government, that there needs to be 3 components. And I just sort of listed what you could be doing in those 3 components to make it a little bit clearer. And I also wanted to show that some of you might be doing an alternating teaching system like this one, in example 1, that everything is separate. So you have your ESL and literacy courses, you're teaching listening, speaking, reading, and writing. You might also be teaching some 243 co-aps there that support your training. You have a separate workforce training class, again, that has the 243 co-aps, and then maybe some more general workforce preparation information. And of course, because it's an ESL class, you're going to be teaching listening, speaking, reading, and writing. And then you also have a separate workforce training class, and that could be machine tech, personal care aid, etc. And these classes work together to support a student in getting the training he needs to be able to succeed on the job. So that's one model. Another model is where the ESL and literacy activities and the workforce preparation are all in one classroom. Okay, and that's all happening together to support the workforce training. And then I think what CDE would consider the optimum model would be a co-teaching model, where this is all happening in one classroom. There's workforce training and support for English language learners with literacy activities and workforce preparation activities all in the same classroom. So you could be doing any one of those 3 models. The reason I'm talking to you about that is because, to me, that makes a difference of how you put it into the plan. So because CDE wants to see those 3 components, even though you're doing it all together in one classroom, you need to show it in 3 areas, because they want to see the 3 areas separately. So even though the optimum is to do it together, you need to report it out in 3 sections. So the first section, workforce training, okay, that's going to be your focus. And remember, agencies can add multiples of each component. So you could be in pharmacy tech, let's say, and there could be pharmacy tech is one training course the students are in this semester, but they also could be in medical terminology, for example. Both of those training courses are part of this pathway, so you could list both of them. They should have different hours though, right? Because I assume, at least, if the students are participating in both. What I want to point out for this one, so again, we have the same things as we did last year, the name of the course. So you want to put your course name there, pharmacy tech, personal care aid, whatever it is, introduction to medical assisting, whatever it is, the course name that the students are taking, you're putting up there. Then you're putting the beginning and ending dates. So again, last year, I know you know, in order to keep you from listing every trimester or quarter course, we told you you could put the whole year's worth of dates in here, okay? That became a problem last year because some of you taught the course, you know, for 9 weeks one semester and 12 weeks another semester, and the hours, etc., didn't match. So we've added here in this orange or orangish arrow a comment section. So any kind of discrepancies that you have that make the numbers or dates or months not work exactly how it shows up above, we would like you to tell us below in your comments so that we can understand, because when we're looking at it, we have questions. Well, how is this working? And if you can describe to us, you know, what happened and why these hours and days work, that's going to help us. So in this case, it says course runs 2 trimesters, and it gives the dates. So even though it started 9/9 and ended 3/27, it's really 2 semesters with a month in between that wasn't taught, and that's why the hours might not work out. I'm going to look at your questions in just a minute. So the times, and maybe the times change also. Maybe there's differences in one semester you do it from one time, one semester you do it another, but we don't want you to have to put the whole thing in again. Just tell us in the comments. The same with the hours per weeks, etc. Last year, the total hours filled in automatically, and that was a problem for some of you also because, again, for these same issues I've just been talking about. And so I've asked for that not to fill in automatically this year. Whether that happened or not, I'm not sure. If it did not, in the comments section, just tell us what the enrollment should be, even if it differs from the number it says up there. We just want to understand your program, okay? And just to mention again, this is ESL enrollment, English language learners. IELCE is integrated English literacy and civics education. It's only for English language learners. Even though ABE and ASE students, native speakers, might be in your training class, this report is only for English language learners. So that's the only one we want to see. So I've asked that this say ELL enrollment. You may have 30 people in your training class, but I only care about or want to know about or want to have a report about, not that I don't care about the others, want to have a report about the English language learners. Okay, I'm going to go to your questions now. Let's see, where did we stop? Okay. If EL Civics, so this is from Sharon Travers. If EL Civics is happening in the ESL classroom and the training opportunity is happening separately with both CTE and ESL teacher, would this be considered co-teaching? Well, so if the ESL is happening, if there's an ESL teacher in the CTE room, to me, that's co-teaching. And even if you're doing the co-op separately, let's talk about that. You know, I'm not sure why you want to do the co-op separately, but I would say that's co-teaching because you do, anytime you would have an ESL teacher in the training classroom, I would call it co-teaching. And then, but again, put the comment down at the bottom in, you know, what the reasoning is. In order to have more time or more preparation for these English language learners, we have a separate ESL class supporting the co-teaching that's happening there. Just tell us, you know, that sounds terrific if you can do that. Sounds good to me. Again, our purpose is to support English language learners. Another question, we have a class that is ESL support for a culinary program. The hours are very different week by week in order to accommodate the culinary program schedule. It's going to be hard to explain that schedule in the program provided. So again, just put in the out whatever you can, and then just in the comments say, you know, this is a varying schedule. Sometimes it's 3 hours a week, sometimes it's 10 hours a week. Just do your best. Again, this doesn't have to be perfect. It's just a way of describing your program to us. And so just make it work for you and make it work for us, and that we know what you're actually doing. Okay, so don't stress, just do your best. And that's why we added this comment section, so you can tell us what you're doing. Okay, what if we suddenly can teach the classes because of shelter in place? Oh, cannot. What if we can't teach the classes? So I don't have a good answer to this, actually. so we always know that there's projected enrollment, right? So your plan is what you planned for the year. And because this is due April 30th, of course, May and June was not counted originally, but we had you put it in. So my advice at this point, unless you receive further instruction, is to put what your plan was and what you expected. It's all about expectations rather than what you actually did. We have the data to know what you actually did. So I would write it as if this shelter-in-place thing did not happen, because that was your plan for the year. If I hear differently, I will let you know in the EL Civics, in the EL Civics network. So let me know your email address so I can inform you of that. But that's what off the top of my head makes sense to me, and I haven't gotten any other suggestion as to how to do that. So since it is your plan, I would continue with your plans as you knew about them in January, what you were going to do and what you were going to do for next year. If it changes, we understand that things change because of the dilemma we're in now, and we'll take that into consideration. Okay, I hope that helps. New messages, oh, sorry, okay. We may not be sure what the dates are at this time. So Pam, do you mean because of the shelter in place? Again, I think I just answered that, so let me know if you still have a question. Oh, good. Nicole, one of our tech people, one of our wonderful people at CASAS says the automatic calculation of hours was turned off. Thank you, Nicole. Glad to hear it. We have them come to the lab if we have additional support. It is individual. Do we put those anticipated hours as well? Yeah, so we haven't really talked about a lab situation. That's a good question. And I would just say, tell when the lab is open and when it's available to those students. And then in your comments, say, the average number of hours that your students come to for that support. That's what I would do. Jessica, you might contact me individually and I can talk to you more about that and see what you're actually doing. Because you must have an idea of how many hours people are participating. So let's put that in. Okay. So a question, with everything that is going on, is there an extension to this plan? The FAQs from CDE came out, and I think, well, I'm not sure they were in there. I think they were, that everything is going on as before. So the deadline is still April 30th, and your plan is expected to be submitted by April 30th. If you have any questions about that, I would suggest you contact your CDE consultant. What's happening next year is really up in the air according to our principal. So again, I would just put in your plans for next year. Part 2 is just your plans, what you would like to see happen, what you hope will happen. Even though we don't know what's going to happen with this pandemic, I would just put in whatever you were planning as of, let's say, January 1st or February. Had you filled out the plan at that time, what would you have put in it? I would just go by that because we haven't received any other instruction. That way, if things do get better and you do have a plan next year, you've got it all in place. If you aren't able to fulfill it, we understand. The 2021 plans are only a plan. They're not what you promised to do. The 1920 are what you are actually doing now or have done until this time. Let's see if I can go. Judith asked, please define the difference between workforce training and preparation. Must there be an externship opportunity at the end of the course or at the training program? So my understanding is that we're just talking about training. We expect that you're offering training that can lead to a job, but there's no requirement that I know of that says that you must have an internship or externship agreement. Of course, that would be optimum, but I don't know of any requirement. If anybody would like to add any knowledge about that, that would be great. Lori, when is the plan when the plan is presented? So the plan, even I know the word plan is sort of confusing. This is the 1920 plan. It might have been more appropriately asked for you to complete on July 1 of 19, okay? But our system is such that you don't have to fill it out until April 30th of 20. But it is the work that you have done, even though it's called a plan, it is the work that you've actually done from July 1, 19 to June 30th, 20. That's the plan. That's what goes in the major part of it, part 1. In part 2, you talk about what you plan to do for 2021, July 1, 20 to June 30th, 21. Do proxy distant learning hours count? Marin asks. You need to follow the guidelines for distance learning. And if you don't know what those are, contact me or contact your CDE consultant. You can do distance learning. Francisco Pineda says the CAPE newsletter says all deadlines are not changed. Yes. Where do I find the FAQ for the plan? There's not an FAQ for the plan now, but there is an FAQ for CDE. Just put out an FAQ and you'll find that on the CASAS website. I sent it out to the EL Civics Network on Monday, I think, and I can send it for you again. If we have time, I'll show you where it is. Let me write that down, where the FAQ is. Okay, and I want to show you the plan and the IELCE civic participation and the IELCE. Okay, good. Okay. Okay, Burr, I'm going to show you where the PowerPoint is. Okay, and okay, question, can we begin working on the plan now? It hasn't opened yet. Last year, it wasn't expected to open till April 1st. We hope to open it sooner than that. We had to go through a system of approval, but it should be opening soon, I think. If not, at the latest, it will open April 1st. But you can go to the summary, which I will show you, and you can start working on a Word document, filling one of, all the items in for each of your programs. And then when the plan opens, you can just copy and paste into the plan. That would be my suggestion, so you can be working on it now. Okay, and I'm going to show you everything. Okay, that's the questions. Let me go ahead. And I just want to let you know we do need to finish by 1:55 so we can get ready for the next training. Okay, I think I've done everything here. Let's go to the next one. I'm going to try to get through the slides before I answer any more questions, if you don't mind, so I can make sure I get through the slides. I'm sorry, let me go back and see. Oh, okay, so slide 18 is just a copy of slide 17, and it just shows it to you bigger so you can see more clearly. Oh, I'm sorry, let's see. I'm sorry, I think I skipped ahead. Sorry, I skipped ahead. Let me go back. Somehow skipped ahead. I'm sorry, I'm going the wrong way. Forgive me. Just give me a second. Press the wrong button here. Okay, yes, this is the bigger version of the workforce training. Let's move on to the workforce preparation. Again, this is a small version. I'll show you the big version in a second. Again, this is where the civic objectives are, and I'm going to give you the bigger version. So here is the pharmacy tech support class, for example, if it's a separate class. And here are the objectives. So there's a drop-down menu now for the objectives, and you can click as many objectives as you're using for this program. So it's going to show which civic objectives you're using in this program, Pharmacy Tech. Okay, and remember that the enrollment is for English language learners only. Okay, and there is a comment section here. I couldn't see it when I was testing, so I couldn't have it here, but we expect there will be a comment section. The ESL section, again, is the similar. when I took this picture, there was no section for civic objectives. I've asked for it to be there. If it's not there, then you could just add into the title of your course, civic objectives 11, 47, and 28. Let me show you this a little bit bigger. I'm hoping that you'll be able to put civic objectives there. Again, civic objectives are more generally done in the workforce preparation course or part, but you might also be doing them in your ESL class, and I wanted to give you that option. So if you don't have a drop-down menu, then please put them in your title like this. And remember, again, your literacy course is ESL literacy, and the enrollment is for ESL students, English language learners. I wanted to say, let's see where my slide is here. Before we go on to that, let me go back a couple of slides because I wanted to say one thing. Where did it go? There it is. So in your form, you'll see these 3 courses. You need to put something in each of these 3 sections. If you are doing co-teaching, that everybody's in the same class, my suggestion to you is that you call the class, whatever your title is, Pharmacy Tech for ESL, for example, and you write everything, all the hours and the days, etc., in workforce training, and you copy the same thing into, you can't copy and paste it, unfortunately, but you put the same information in the workforce prep activities and the same thing in the ESL course, because it's all one course. But because of the way the form is, and because CDE wants to know that you're doing all 3 components, that's what you need to do. So the same title would be, and the same information would be in each of the 3 sections. If you're doing a training program and then workforce preparation and ESL together, you'd have a course name for workforce training, and then the same course, and then a workforce prep course name, ESL course name in the last 2 sections, and this information would be exactly the same. And if you're doing the model where everything is separate, then you have a different course title for each of the sections. I hope that makes clear. Okay, call me if you need more clarification about that. I'm going to go ahead now back to the next section. Aha. Okay, program and coordination and support. So last year we had a lot of difficulty with this section. It wasn't clear. Some of you copied exactly what was in the example and pasted it. CDE was not happy with that because they felt that you weren't telling what was happening in your program. So never copy from the example. Always make it your own, okay? So now we hope this is going to be better for you. And we have part A and part B. I'm going to go to the next slide. So it's perhaps a little bigger. So part A is qualitative. It's asking you to describe the recruitment and support. Sorry, there's a typo here, but it won't be in the regular plan. Describe recruitment and support of students, for example, counseling and navigation, which we know is crucial to the success of this program, and that's why it's asked for here. Okay, you have to show how you're, not just that you had a counselor talk to 500 of all of your students, but how you worked with these students in this pathway to recruit them into the pathway, to support them in the pathway and to the training, and then perhaps to support them in getting a job as well. So that's what it takes to make a successful program, and that's what we want to see here described. And we want you to describe the collaboration among teachers of separate IELCE IET components, adult literacy, workforce preparation, and workforce training. This program is a program of collaboration. If you haven't collaborated in the past, you need to start either now or when the program ramps up again to collaborate in these 3 areas, okay? Your program isn't going to be successful unless you have collaboration, and we need you administrators to support the collaboration of your teachers by giving them release time, etc., to do this collaboration. And we're going to talk more about that in the next session of completing a single set of learning objectives. So I can't emphasize that enough. This has to be a program of collaboration. Administrator, ESL teacher, workforce training teacher, workforce preparation teacher, and counselors. And that's what we want to see here. Part B is the quantitative. Describe how your agency tracks attendance, and if your program partnered with another agency, how the attendance is being tracked in that other agency. So those are the two sections there. I guess this should have been in the other order, I think, but in any case, last year, part 1 was all about what's happening in the current year, and then there was part 2, what's happening in the other year. That included for continuation of what you were already doing. We realized that was difficult to understand, and that some of things had to populate, and it was very confusing. So what we did this year is, in the same place you're putting a current plan, at the end of it, there's going to be planning for next year for this program. So all the planning for next year for the program you've already described is happening in the same section, part 1, so that you can more easily understand what you're talking about, okay? So, but just like last year, it's going to ask you if you're continuing or discontinuing. So here's the, yeah. So here is the continuing. Let's see if I have a slide that shows it bigger. Yeah. So for the planning for the program we just talked about, which is pharmacy tech, are you continuing? If so, in the drop-down menu, you put continuing, and then you put any changes for next year about the program you've just been describing. There may be no change, just put no change. Maybe you're going to add you do a different civic objective next year, put that down. Maybe you're partnering with someone else, put that down. Whatever changes there are in this continuing program would go here. If you're discontinuing the program, then you need to tell why it's being discontinued. So again, in the bigger version, in the drop-down menu, put discontinuing and then tell us the reasons why. Your partner didn't follow through, you didn't have enough students, whatever it might be, you put your reason for discontinuing there. Okay, and then part 2 is any new programs. So anything you didn't describe in part 1 goes in part 2. So any new program. So this year you had pharmacy tech only, but next year you're going to do automotive. That goes in part 2. And then the description is the same. All the different sections about how you're going to do it in the future look like they're in the same format, but it's talking about any new programs. So current programs and the planning for next year for current programs is in part 1, and future programs is in part 2. Okay, I'm going to go to the questions now. And I just have a few more minutes. If your question isn't answered, please feel free to email me. Will the questions on the plan be the same as last year? Yes. Will our plan from last year be pre-populated? No. So you need, before you fill out this plan, you need a copy of last year's program, and you need a copy of the review of last year's program. The copy of last year's program, you should have kept a document in your computer, but if you did not, I have asked for, and I think there will be a link on the page I'm going to show you in a second where you'll be able to access last year's plan. You can't access the review electronically, but you can ask your CDE consultant or your program specialist for that review. You should have your review, because even if you were rated adequate, your work may not be up to par, especially in the areas of program coordination and a single set of learning objectives. We basically rated everyone adequate in the single set of learning objectives because we realized that you didn't have training in doing it, and so many of you did not do it appropriately. So you need, and your review will say, please go to training in single set of learning objectives, or please learn how to write a single set of learning objectives. So you need to see your review if you need that. And I would say 90% of the plans need help with single set of learning objectives. I'm doing a training at 2 o'clock in a single set of learning objectives. And it will be recorded. So if you can't come at 2 o'clock, you could listen to it. Okay. Let's see what else I have. There's when I talked about putting your plan into a Word document, there's no template. Just use a Word document. It says, if we offer enumerator training, can that count as IELCE? Yes, enumerator training is a pathway, is a job pathway. You need to talk to your CD consultant about census enumerator training. Okay, Rhonda, you need to talk to your either your CD consultant or your program specialist about receiving your review. If you didn't get it, request it again, please. Okay, so Sarah says that your plan was saved in a PDF that doesn't let you see everything. I'm sorry about that. I don't know anything about that. But again, we are trying to make your last year's plan available to you. I think it will be. Okay. Let me take you, let's see what else I have here. And I do want to take you, okay, I want to just mention, yeah, I think I'm almost done here. I did that. Okay. The single set of learning objectives. This is the language that's on the single set of learning objectives now. And I hope it's more clear to you about what a single set of learning objectives is. Again, if it's not, please come to my training. And I'm going to show you that on the summary. If you want to have more information about single set of learning objectives, you can find it on the training that CASAS and CalPro did on December 6th, and you can go to this link, and I'm going to show you where it is on the ElCivics website, and also the training I'm doing at 2 p.m. today, a recording of which will also be on the website. Just workforce training providers, just to say that some of you didn't understand that the workforce training provider, the person who's giving the workforce training, can be someone at your agency who's teaching the CTE course, or it could be someone at the community college or other partner. So just be sure you put that in. Okay, and I'm going to show you the resources now. So I'm going to go to the ElCivics webpage. I'm going to have to make sure I'm sharing this. So let me just make sure that I am. Hello, everyone. Now I see your faces because I'm in gallery view. How nice. Let me share. Here we go. That. Okay, hopefully you can see the ElCivics webpage. Raise your hand if you can see it. I have to manage you. Okay, good. Adela tells me yes, thank you. You can, so I can see her. Okay, we're scrolling down on the left-hand side, and we go to California ElCivics, and then we go to California Civic Participation. Okay, this is the ElCivics webpage. The civic participation webpage. Okay, if you scroll down, here is the webinar, Designing a Single Set of Learning Objectives. All you need to do is click on this, and you will go to the training that CalPro and CASAS did. That's an overview of designing a single set of learning objectives, and what I'm doing today is a little bit more specific. You don't have to have done this to do my training, but it's helpful if you did. If you scroll down, the second set of PDFs is the integrated ElCivics documents. These are, here's the plan summary I told you about, all the elements of the plan. You can download it. Here are the slides from today's workshop we just completed. And then here are the slides for the workshop we will be doing in 5 minutes. Okay, this is the CDE presentation they gave. And then this is from 2 years ago, a toolkit. I'm not sure how helpful it is to you, but it's there. Then if you click up here on the left-hand side, this takes you to the accountability page, which is the integrated ElCivics plan. Okay, and here you see the same items that are in the summary Okay, the PDF summary are here. And then it says start the plan. If you press on that, it says basically you can't do it yet because you have to log in and it's going to tell you you can't do it because it's not open yet, right? But hold on, let me go back. But I'm hoping that right here next to this is going to say see your plan from last year, and hopefully you'll be able to go in and see your plan for next year. Not your review, but your plan. Okay. And then when you print it this year or save a PDF, make sure you save it in a format where you can see everything. I'm not sure what happened about that. Okay, let me stop and go to one other thing. My PowerPoint, yeah, hopefully that's it. Okay, I showed you the resources. I showed you, I went in person to these things here. Okay, I hope you're going to share this with anybody who needs it. And I hope we don't have time to do this actually to give you takeaways, but if anybody wants to unmute and just tell me one thing that you took away from this, or if you want to type it in the chat, that would be terrific. I just want to say that we did identify the enhancements. We identified the resources, and I let you know that the plan is due again at the original date, April 30th, 2020. Thank you so much for participating. If you haven't yet put your name and agency into the chat, please do so now. Again, the recording of this message will be, of this workshop will be on the EL Civics website by tomorrow, I hope. Thank you so much for participating. If you're coming to the single set of learning objectives, I will see you in 5 minutes. I'm going to close this out now, though, so that we can start up again. Okay? Thanks a lot. Bye.